Assalamualaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat malam and welcome once again to another episode of What's Going On Malaysia. My name is Harith Iskandar. Thank you very much for joining me. This is a live program. I am here in Kuala Lumpur sitting at my office. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we are also live on Twitter Space. What's up, Twitter Space? I can see some people joining us. Dr. A, Q, Quills, Ang, Naim, Ash. I hope you guys can hear me. So a little bit later on in the program, I'll be inviting people from Twitter Space as well to come in live and talk and speak to my guest as well. Plus, those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube can throw in your comments and questions for tonight's guest. And tonight's guest is someone that has been on my show before. She was on my show in January, almost a year ago at that time. Very young, very new to the political activist scene. However, a short 11 months later, this young lady is all over my social media. She's all over. She's all over the place. She's all over the place because she has a lot to say. She says it very smartly, and frankly speaking, I like to listen to her, and I love talking to her. So, guys, quick reminder: please share right now. If you're watching on Facebook, click share. Get as many people watching. If you're watching this after the fact, maksudnya, if it is not Monday evening for you, you're watching this on Tuesday or Wednesday, or some other time, you're watching this a year later. Mana tahu? Welcome back in time. We are today is Monday. No, it's Tuesday. Tuesday, 15 Hari Bulan November, 10 p.m. Malaysian time. And I do know we've got a lot of people watching from overseas as well. T. Adam, good morning, good evening. Michael Anthony, hi Harith. Victor Lim, Brian Kwan, good evening. Watching from Kelana Jaya. Michael Anthony says, "Let's go Malaysia." Yeah, if only all of Malaysia was as united as all of us could just let's go. But as you know, we are not as united as some of us wish we were, and that's what we're here to talk about as well. Because the guest that I have on the show today, as I mentioned, you know who it is. If you've tuned in, you know exactly who it is. All right, it's the co-founder of MUDA, MUDA. Give me an M, give me a U, give me a D. I don't even know why I did that. I just see the word MUDA and I feel like I want to cheer. You know, I don't know. Okay, you know what? Dengan tidak membuang masa lagi, I like to say that. I want to bring the co-founder of MUDA into the studio, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat datang, Amira.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here tonight again.
Oh my gosh, it was a year ago. That time you were, if I remember correctly, you were being called in by the police for something.
Yeah, I was called in for the Tangkap Azam Baki rally.
Yes.
And since then, I've been called many more times over to the police.
Oh, so the police have become like second home.
Yeah, it's like my second home.
Okay. Anyway, Amira, just to set a bit of a context to everybody, you're actually on the road at the moment. You're in between one place going to another place. What's the story?
Yeah. Well, I was in Tanjung Karang this morning, and now I'm in Mersing on my way back to Kuala Lumpur because I have to go to Pulau Pinang tomorrow early morning for the campaign trail. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Pulau Pinang on the campaign trail for whom tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning I'll be campaigning at Bukit Mertajam for YB Steven Sim, and then I'll be going to Kepala Batas for our very own candidate in Kepala Batas, Daniel Abdul Majid, and then at night I'll be going to Perak, Ipoh Timur for Howard Lee, a really really dear friend of mine. Yeah.
So basically tak tidur lah tu bunyi dia.
Well, I have a lot of naps in the car.
Okay.
I was just telling my friend just now, I have a lot of naps in the car, but on the bed, I think like at max 2-3 hours every night these days.
Oh man, it's
Uh,
absolutely crazy. But you seem cheerful. I don't know how you do it. In fact, I don't know how any of you do it. Uh,
yeah,
um,
the
uh,
fuel.
Crazy. Okay, let's jump straight into it. A lot has happened in the last 11 months since you were on the show. Uh,
Definitely.
you're the co-founder of MUDA. We are 4 days. How many days? 4 days away from the elections. Before we jump into the particular topics, uh, I mean, what is this period like for you? Give a little bit of insight into the people. Like, what is for you and the people, your colleagues? What is it like really? These next 4 days and the last couple of weeks? What's it been like?
Well, I mean, this is my first time actually campaigning for a general election. So, of course, I had campaigned for my own Johor State election when I was contesting. But general election is just a whole different thing altogether. And I was very honored and humbled to be given the mandate to become MUDA's first uh, elections director for our first ever general election. So, so I was, the election process is a very democracy is a very, very tiring and long process, but very necessary. So, it started on with negotiating for seats because MUDA came with an electoral pact with our friends in Pakatan Harapan. So I was leading the negotiation team. After the negotiation team, I was very proud to be the only woman there, but also hoping that you will have more and more women at the negotiation table in the future as well.
Let me let me
And
let me
then
just, sorry. Let me just ask you. Yeah, the negotiation table. Yeah, so there was a period when, especially, there was talks that Muda was going to be joining Harapan. You had your detractors, you had your supporters. Why are you doing this? Or yeah, you need to do this. I can imagine behind closed doors. All this, like, it sounds so like macam undercover lah. Was there a lot of shouting and screaming you were doing?
well, what stays in we always say what's in a negotiation room should stay in a negotiation room. But one thing for sure is that we all came in with good faith. Every one of us from MUDA, from DAP, from PKR, from Amanan, we're all very clear from APCO. We're very clear that our goal in this election is to return back the victory of the people in 2018. And in doing so, we have to ensure that this coalition wins the majority seat. So we cannot just win, like 90 seats or 100 seats. It's not enough to form a government. And so, what is the best strategy for us to ensure that we win the majority seat so that we can form a solid government as one coalition as a whole? And so, it's a lot of trying to convince, like, as a party, which is the better seat for you, who are the best candidates for you to put forth in seat A, seat B, seat C, and all those kind of things. And of course, there were a lot of external factors, like, on social media, there were a lot of noises, a lot of, like you mentioned, supporters and detractors. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to negotiation, it's very important to just stay focused on what's your end goal. You must be firm, but at the same time, do not be too egoistic. And I think because MUDA, we are a very new party, we know as well our capabilities. We are idealistic, but we are also what we always call, we are functional dreamers. We know our capabilities, so we negotiate within what we know we can cope with in this general election. Yeah.
Okay, so to answer that question, so Brian Fernandez asked, I mean, we'll stay on this topic for one more minute. Why did Muda join and not stand alone? Chances to win when you stand alone is more higher. People do want to see changes and not Muda joining Pakatan. So how do you answer to this kind of detractor?
Yep. Well, first and foremost, I think when we form MUDA, we are very clear that we want to work together with friends who share the same values, same principle, and same ideology as we do. So if anyone have been following Fahmi Reza's democracy class on TikTok, you can see
No, I'm
like
a
the
big
most
fan.
logical. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. and there was this one class where he was showing like the ideology of each party. And you can see that the most logical way for MUDA, if you want to form a coalition, want to work together with any party, the most logical would be Pakatan Harapan, because we share almost the same ideology and principle. Now, when entering an election, why is it that we can't enter alone? Because at the end of the day, when you enter election, the goal is to form a government for the state. And like I mentioned, because MUDA is a new party, it's a very we don't have that many resources, we don't have that many manpower. We know that we cannot definitely contest 222 seats. Democracy is necessary, but democracy is also a very expensive process. So contesting in one seat is very expensive, and contesting in 222 seats is just simply something that we cannot, it's not within our capacity. But if you contest only in several seats, and then you clash with friends who share the same ideology and principle with you, you won't be winning the people over, because at the end of the day, you will be seen as just trying to like kacau undi lah, of a sort. Because at the end of the day, you want to have to lessen the multiple corner fight, so that you have one clear winner. And so that is the reason why when you enter an election, you try to minimize as much clashes as possible. And that is why we want to enter with a coalition, which is with Pakatan. And bearing in mind that we cannot enter 232 seats alone. Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that answers Brian Fernandez's question. All right, so as you're talking about this, here is my question. Like, at the end of the day, you are talking about a coalition, and you are talking about similarities between the parties within that coalition. Tapi, let's face it, there are also a lot of differences. So katakanlah that your coalition wins. Then you go into the whole process of who gets what, who gets which piece of the pie, who gets which position of power. And that's where, in my opinion, I thought that the Prakatan that came through in GE14 perhaps struggled, because it was, at the end of the day, a four-headed monster who had one goal in mind, to defeat the current government at that time, similar to now, although perhaps not as focused on one person as it was in 2018. But how do you manage expectations, or, hey, we won, now give me what I think is due me? I'm sure that's almost going to be a bigger battle than deciding to get into a coalition. What are your thoughts?
But number one, first and foremost, ever since the start of the negotiation, we have agreed, we need to have only one commander at the front of the, if you call this a battle, we have to have only one commander. And every party in the coalition plus MUDA, we agreed that that commander is Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. So from the very get-go, we are all very clear that our Prime Minister candidate from Pakatan Harapan and MUDA is Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. So from that front, once we win this general election, there will be no question of who's going to be the Prime Minister, which party is going to take the Prime Ministership role, because we all know it was a agreed upon contract that is going to be Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim as our Prime Minister. That's number one. Number two, of course, you have a lot of differences, but if these differences are just about positions in the cabinet, I think these are the things that we can sort out, because at the end of the day, what's most important is giving the best to the people. So that means, what are the policies that we want to push through? What are the changes that we want to bring forward? What are the reforms that we want to make in Malaysia? And in all these things, like policies, changes, reforms, Pakatan Harapan and MUDA share the same values, share the same ideals. So we won't have that much problem at the front of creating good policies for Malaysia, and I think we can sort out any differences in that journey of pushing through those reforms.
Okay, so anybody who's listening, if you're wondering, if you're listening on Twitter Space, why the sound may be in and out slightly, Amira is actually on the road. I can see the traffic moving behind her. Which part of the highway are you on at the moment? Do you know? You need to ask someone.
No, we are from Mersing to Kuala Lumpur, so it's the Lebuh Raya Utara Selatan.
Lebuh Raya Utara Selatan. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, by the way, she's not driving, just to let you know, in case people are wondering. Okay, let's get straight into it. Yeah, we hear a lot about reforms. We hear a lot about anti-corruption. We hear a lot about we have to renew the country and all. But of course, the
Mm.
biggest, one of the biggest conversations everybody's lips with, yeah, what will make this different? In 2018, we thought it was all going to change. Nothing changed. Why should it be different this time? Yeah. So
Mm.
why should it be different this time?
Well, just to start off, I don't think there's no changes at all. Because in 2018, when Pakatan Harapan was in power and was just only 22 months, a lot of things have been put into motion. And a lot of things have been passed. For example, being giving room for the 18 years old to 21 years olds to vote, ensuring that there is an automatic voter registration that was passed, very fast. And then YB Hanayo, Dato YB Kak Wan, for example, they put forth the motion of the anti-sexual harassment bill, anti-stalking law, and all these things. All they were put forth during the Pakatan Harapan administration, and then was pushed through very recently through the MOU that was signed by the Pakatan Harapan with the current government. And I think one of the biggest achievement in 2018 was that we managed to put, to the first ever time in Malaysia where you managed to convict an ex-prime minister, Datuk Sri Najib Razak, for a very big scandal that involved money laundering, that involved corruption. And this could not have happened if people do not go out in trance to vote and to vote for Pakatan Harapan in power. And this set forth a very good, a very good precedent in our politics in Malaysia, in saying that, look, regardless of whatever position you are at in Malaysia, whether you are a parliamentary member, whether you are a state legislative assemblyman, or even whether you're a prime minister, if you are corrupt, you will be punished by the judicial system. And this is something that is very, very powerful. And so, I was in the Ministry of Education, and, I was part of the lab that was looking through drafting a very good, solid addendum to the education blueprint. Things like putting forth the K-12 system, ensuring that there is a better TVET system in our education system. We want to ensure that we not just train and place, we place and train students in terms of ensuring that we have better workforce in the IR 4.0 industries. And all these things have been put into motion, but it was stopped due to langkah syaratan. And so if we were given the chance, the mandate to be a government again, these are the things, the reform that we want to continue. For example, reform like separating AG chamber with the prosecution office, for example, putting forth the Political Financing Act, which was in motion as well during the Pakatan Harapan days. So I think people often punish Pakatan Harapan a lot due to the 22 months of them in power. But except, of course, there are some weaknesses. But I think at the same time, you cannot, 100% judge them for 22 months in power in comparison, trying to fix the system that have been there for more than 60 years. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, those of you, quick reminder: if you're listening on Twitter Space, if anybody wants to ask a question for Amira Aisya, please indicate that you would like to. I've got you. I'm watching you here. That you would like to ask a question, and I'll bring you in. And you can ask your question. Uh, Out of the thousand, I had a gentleman from UMNO, Isham Jalil, on my show yesterday, who's running Inshallah, and I asked him this question, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Out of the hundreds, if not thousands, of issues faced by this country and faced by any political party, faced by any politician like yourself, what what would you say are the one or two issues that are closest to your heart? And then we'll dive straight into those.
Yeah. I was born from a family of educators. My mother was a teacher. My late father, before he started his own business, he was also a teacher. And I didn't grow up in a well-off area. I grew up in a squatter area. So I always tell this story because this is the start of my journey. And while I was growing up, I see how when children do not have good access to education, because a lot of people in my area, they dropped out of school at the age of 13, 14, some even at the age of 12. and you can see that they did not manage to improve the livelihood of the family. So I always believe that in order for you to improve a generation, it all tied back to education. And I've always been passionate about education, and that is also the reason after I finished my chambering, I did not pursue legal career, but I entered into the Ministry of Education because I want to create good policies in education. But before this, I was sort of like sitting on a high horse. I thought that you can always push for policy without politics. But then when I'm in the system, that's when I realized that no matter how good things are on paper, but if you don't have good political will, you can't push through, good education system. And so to answer that question, for me, what drives me in this political journey, my passion is all about education, ensuring that the generations after me, get to inherit good education system in the country.
Yeah, I agree with you there. In my opinion, pun memang education seems to be, in my opinion, a fairly weak link in what could make Malaysia great. But you hit the nail on the head when you say you can sit on a high horse, but at the end of the day, politics plays a big part of it. So yeah, how let's say lah katakanlah you tiba-tiba become education minister. Like I just want to spend a
Mm.
couple of minutes on this. What do you think you could actually do when you have that you would have the political will to make those one or two or three big major changes that you think would turn the ship around when it comes to education?
Mm.
What would you do?
Yeah. Number one is the academic pathway. So our academic pathway has been, left behind for for many, many years. For example, if you compare our education system, because I'm a Johorian, so I always compare myself to the Singaporeans. So if you compare our education system with the education system in Singapore, what our children learned in 12 years, the children in Singapore learn only in 9 years because of the amount or the syllabus that they are learning is deep rather than wide. So number one, I want to ensure that that there is a change in our syllabus to ensure that our students have quality, syllabus in rather than very huge things that they learn, but they do not delve deep. Number two, I want to ensure that we have a K-12 system. So right now, what we are having is after SPM, our students have many, many pathway that they have to enter, like pre-university pathway before they get to do their degree. So for example, they can either go to matriculation or IP or pre-university, or they have to go to Form 6. There were so many education pathway that they became confused. So if you look, more than 70% of our SPM graduates, they do not want to continue to tertiary education because to them it's a waste of time and they did not even know, like, where do I go right after SPM in order for me to go to that degree level. But if you have a K-12 system, K-12 system has been implemented in so many other countries in which right after you graduate from high school, your high school diploma is at par with the high school diploma of many other international universities, and it's considered as your pre-university certificate. So that right after that, you can immediately jump into your degree. So you don't have to go into like different pre-university pathway. Number three is our TVET. And I always say this, TVET is actually the future, but what's happening right now is in Malaysia, there's a stigma that TVET is subpar in comparison with other academic pathway. You think that every time a student goes into TVET, that means that student is lesser than those who goes into science stream. When actually, in fact, the world is evolving in sense that, TVET is what is most needed by industries out there. And so you have to firm up the TVET education system and not just ensuring the students only at the age of 18 years old can they choose to go through that TVET pathway. So if you look at many other countries, for example, German, right? German is where like TVET is just way ahead than any other places. But German, they ask their students to choose TVET pathway at the age of 10 years old, which I think do not really suit us that much. But if you compare us, for example, with education system in Australia or in Canada, where the students get to choose to go into TVET pathway, either by going into apprenticeship or going into training at industries at the age of 15 to 16 years old. And then after that, there is a high demand from industries to get their students into the TVET sector. So if you can do that, you can kill two birds with one stone. Number one, you can ensure that students stay in school because many of the students who dropped out are students who do not have interest in academic pathway, but they actually do have interest in things like, for example, mechanics, they have interest in welding, they have interest in hospitality, in culinary. So you get them to stay in school because this is their interest. But at the same time, you ensure that we have quality workforce going out of our education system.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Amira, I'm just smiling because I just realized it's like 10 past 10 at night. You've been on the road, and yet you're talking as if baru bangun tidur. You got so much to say, so much energy, but you're still smiling. If I was you, I'd be like, oh, sorry, what was the question? What was the question again? How do you how oh my god, because I think most of the people, guys, you probably don't know this. People like Amira and everybody who's on the campaign trail, they have 10, 15, 20, 25 events, places to be in one day. And you've been doing this now for over 2 weeks, and it's literally non-stop. And I get amazed by the energy you have. And okay, what are you, just in your late 20s at the moment? So yeah, I guess you should have energy, but just off the topic, I'm going to talk about some scandals in a while. But off the topic, what drives you? What keeps you going? What has you still be able to brrr at 10 a.m. at 10 p.m. at night?
Yeah.
What's
Well,
that?
I think I'm a firm believer of intention. Whenever you want to start something, you have to start it with a very good intention. And I know that when I jumped into politics, I know that this is a world that is very foreign to me. But if I keep true to the first intention of why I joined politics, then every time I feel tired, every time I feel like there were a lot of obstacles and challenges, I remind myself why I joined politics. And that is because I want other children who grew up, without having proper education system, every other children who grew up without having strong socio-economic support. I want them to be able to get out of that circle of poverty because I was raised, in a squatter area where I see all these problems happening. I see how I have friends who got into drugs at a very young age, as I've mentioned just now, and I do not want that future for my children or for any other children in the future generation. And so I always believe that when we do something in politics, it's not just for ourselves. We have to do it for the future generation because this is the Malaysia that they have to inherit. They have to inherit all the goods. They have to inherit all the bads. And I want one day when I'm older, I do not want to look back at my past and feel regret because I did not do something to ensure that I live Malaysia that is, a Malaysia that its children can live in a dignified way. Yeah.
Uh, Much respect to you. I mean, seriously, I love what you just said at the end there, that one day you just want to be able to look back and basically know that you did your best, and you've probably left
Mm.
something in the wake. Okay, let's talk about the ugly side of politics. I know you probably get a lot of hate coming towards you, probably not just on social media, also maybe in your face. Does it happen? Like if you're on your walkabout, do people come and try and put you off and say nasty things?
Well, it has happened multiple times. Of course, on
Okay,
social
how do you
media,
handle
it's a lot more.
it?
Yeah, I think on social media, it's a lot more aggressive because people are just more brave when they are behind screens.
No,
But
no, no,
face to
yeah,
face,
the cowards are more brave than behind the screen lah. Cuba ke depan. Pernah jumpa tak Amira Aisya, dia muka dia ada sekali geram macam tu. You know. So yeah, but
yeah.
I see one bad comment about myself. I put, kenapa dia ni? Why he said that about me? But you must get it 1,000 times full. How do you deal with it?
Well, I know that there were some people who have told me that you shouldn't think too much about it. You have to steel yourself against it, and you have to sort of get used to receiving all these nasty words, nasty comments. I've been sexually harassed online. I've received body shaming comments. But to me, I do not want to steel myself against that. I do not want to get used to it to the point that I don't feel anything when I read those comments. Because when I read those comments, or when people say that to my face, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel mad, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed. But these are all the feelings that make me humans. And I think it's very important for us to have leaders or elected representatives who are humans, because at the end of the day, you have to be humans in order for you to empathize. And in order to create good policy for the people on the ground, you have to have a strong sense of empathy, because you are trying to create policies not just for yourself, but so many other people who are, who do not have the same position as you do. And the way I cope with it is that rather than using it to put myself down, I use it as a fuel to even do better, to push myself even harder. Whenever I read any nasty comment, of course, sometimes I feel mad, feel sad. Um, Take some time, a little bit time, maybe just one night off social media, but then tomorrow remind myself again why I'm in this journey. And if there are still people who throw out these nasty comments, nasty words, that means there's still a lot more work to do in Malaysia in order to ensure that we just have, a kinder country altogether.
I like what you said there, that you need to be affected by it somehow, which kind of reinstates that you are human. If you are human,
Yeah.
you will be affected by negative comments as
Mm.
long as they don't overwhelm you. Because sometimes I know there's certain people who get so many negative comments, tapi they walk around macam blur, macam tak kisah. And
Mm.
sometimes I think to myself, they really tak kisah, which means that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's a negative. You need to
Mm.
be, you need to feel emotional about it somehow. I want to bring up this comment because here is a very common emotion or feeling among people. So this is from Zain Solo, and I'm going to put a voice to this because this is what I hear in my head. It won't make any difference which party wins. Nothing will change. A major bulk of our so-called Wakil Rakyat are just politicians at the end of the day. So be my tongue too also. Yeah, so this I think is quite a common emotion felt by a lot of people. Like, end of the day, nothing will change. So buat apa tu? I mean,
Mm.
yeah. Well, can anything really change? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, number one, as I've mentioned before, when Pakatan Harapan came into power, a lot of things were put into motion. And sometimes you feel that way simply because maybe you weren't affected by those things that were put into motion. Let's say, for example, the mothers who are fighting to confer citizenship to their children, the mothers who gave birth to their children outside of Malaysia, who couldn't give their children citizenship simply because they gave birth outside. These are the kind of policy that you have to fight for in parliament. And in order for you to fight for these policies, you need to elect good representatives in parliament so that they can fight for the voices of these mothers. For example, as a woman, right? There were so many issues affecting women. Let's say, for example, women not being able to be in the labor force. Only 55% of women are in labor force. And more than 40% of women who dropped out of work is simply because they have to take care of their children. It's not because they do not want to go to work. And this is because there is no strong social care support for childcare support in our country. But if you look at the manifesto of Pakatan Harapan, this is also something that I truly believe in. A good country will provide strong childcare support. So you can put also the women in labor force if they wanted to choose to do so. So that at the same time you can help boost the economic of the country. When you look at, for example, the recent food crisis, right? The recent food crisis is caused by, people are always asking, but we have a lot of natural resources. We have a lot of paddy field. We have a lot of farmers. Why is it so difficult for us to get this, food security? Simply because the system that we have in the country, we don't have a strong ecosystem surrounding the security, our food security. For example, when you look at what the farmers have to go through, sure, they produce paddy in the country, but in order to get the fertilizers, to get the racun serangga, all those things are imported. And because of the Russia-Ukraine war and because of many other global crises, you can't get those things in the country. And so that is the reason why our food security was being challenged. But those things are things that we can produce in the country. And in order to have that, you have to elect good parliamentarians so that they will fight for these issues. So maybe you think that it won't affect you. Let's say, for example, a lot of people are now saying that, oh, they don't care about corruption because it doesn't affect them, right? A lot of people are saying that, so what about 1MDB? It doesn't affect my life. The only person affected by it is Datuk Sri Najib because he went to jail for it. But I just want to remind you, for example, maybe it doesn't affect your life if you live in an urban area. But you think about the children in Sabah who, in order to go to school, they terpaksa naik boat. Some of them do a makeshift flying fox. You saw the video of children yang terpaksa meniti pipe in order to go to school because the access infrastructure to school is simply not there. And then you look at, places where the hospitals are just terrible. Schools where, you jalan pun kaki terus termasuk dalam lubang. You look at it, for example, in one MDB case, because of corruption, our country is in billion ringgit of debt until 2037, right? This year itself, we have to pay 15 billion ringgit debt due to one MDB. Next year, we have to pay 13 billion ringgit in debt due to one MDB. Combine these two, 28 billion ringgit, right? What can we do with 28 billion ringgit? This 28 billion ringgit, don't forget this 28 billion ringgit are not Datuk Sri Najib Razak's money. Right? It's not duit orang kaya Arab. It's the money of Malaysians. It's Malaysians taxpayers' money. And this money should have been used to increase, the quality of livelihood of the people. So what can we do with 28 billion ringgit? If we want to build new schools, one school right now is about 40 to 50 billion ringgit. So with 28 billion ringgit, we can build more than 600 new schools. If you want to build new hospitals with better equipment, better qualities, and get more doctors in place rather than right now, a lot of doctors do not have placement, right? With 28 billion ringgit, you can build more than 50 new hospitals if one hospital costs 500 million ringgit. And all these things can increase the livelihood of the people. So you may not feel affected by it, but children who do not have access to quality education will be affected by it. Older people who cannot go to hospital will be affected by it. So all these things affect your life whether you realize it or not, directly or indirectly.
Okay, well answered. We've got someone in Twitter space, Tamil Wanan. I've let you onto Twitter space. If you can unmute yourself, Tamil Wanan. Hi, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So where are you listening to us from? Where are you at the moment?
Kuala Lumpur from the house.
Okay. Don't give away your address just yet, Tamil Wanan.
Yes, sir.
Aisya, you got a question for Amira Aisya?
Okay, Amira, firstly, for record purposes, I was one of the first to congratulate you when you won your state seat.
Thank you very much.
I was elected because our Putri won in Putri Wangsa. Correct?
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, question. I looked at the manifestos of the three main coalition parties. None of them touched on setting up a national ombudsman body.
A national what body?
Ombudsman body. Spare me some time, Harit, to explain what I'm talking about.
I was just about to ask you.
Okay. This is, we find a situation where all these problems with corruption that is happening in this country, we go after the politicians. But I'm a retired public servant, and we know that, these politicians make their decisions on all these billion-dollar tenders and all that based on paperwork that is done by civil servants.
Okay.
Now, the question is, why are the civil servants who are paid by taxpayers hold up for making those recommendations? So, the thing is, even the latest tender that was exposed by Rafizi about that pembentukan banjir dekat Selangor, it was the letter was released by civil servants who were frustrated by what's going on. So there must be this national ombudsman body is supposed to give protection to the civil servants if they blow the whistles on the politicians. I did come across some politicians saying that act is being prepared to be tabled in the parliament, but I didn't see any of the political party putting it in the manifesto, because this is something that is very important as a check and balance to ensure that both the politicians and the civil servants who are putting up this recommendation, don't get away with it.
Okay, fair enough.
Amira,
Yeah.
your response, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Tamil Wanan. We appreciate that. So yeah, just to clarify, if I heard that correctly, he's asking why the civil servants who I guess sign off on the papers or put the papers through are not prosecuted as well. Is that what he was asking?
I think he was talking about to protect the civil servants who actually, because right now we have the Whistleblower Act. So if you want to protect the civil servants who produce these documents out. I think that was what the ombudsman body
Okay.
is for. Yeah. So to me, I think that's a very strong and solid suggestion. I mean, this is something that definitely is something that we have been discussed many times over, because we do want to ensure that these civil servants are protected, because at the end of the day, as you rightfully pointed out, they are the ones who are doing all the work. For example, even we are looking at budget, people always glorify the minister who presented the budget, but actually the budget are the work of the civil servants. Many of the work by ministers are the work of the civil servants. And so I think it's a very strong and solid suggestion. There is definitely something that I will, discuss with the leaders of Pakatan Harapan to push through and to see whether it's something that we can push through in Parliament. I think maybe a little bit on manifesto. Definitely, what we have put down in manifesto is something that we can and we have to pull through, because it's sort of like our social contract with the people. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that those are the only things that we are going to do in the next 5 years. So things that we didn't put in the manifesto, but if it's something that is very necessary, for example, like what Mr. Tamiwara states just now, is something that we can add on later on when we are in the position of holding the government. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go specifically to MUDA right now. When's the last time you spoke to Syed Saddiq?
I think I was in Muar. I don't know. I was in Sabah with him yesterday.
What, you were in Sabah yesterday?
Yeah, I was in Sabah yesterday. Yeah.
You just like tutup mata buka, you're somewhere else, right?
No,
So-
different state.
Just a different state. Yeah. So yeah, if you think that you get a lot of hate and love at the same time, Syed Saddiq seems to get tenfold all over the place. Um, in your personal opinion, and I kind of know the answer to this, do you think that he is potentially, possibly, prime minister material one day?
Yeah. Well, I do believe that he is prime minister material. I 100% believe in his capability to become a prime minister. Whether or not when he's going to become a prime minister is a different story altogether. But I think if I can just, because we are on the prime minister topic, if I can also just a little bit touch on that. I always believe that, although it's very important to identify who is the prime minister of the country, I think we also have to understand that the government is not made up by just one prime minister, right? It's made up of a cabinet, and it's always more important for you to think of what is the team that is going to go into government. It's not just that one person, right? For example, let's say that you have a very good prime minister, but then you have a terrible minister of finance, you have a terrible minister of education, then it's still not a strong government anyway. And so I think with that being said, I believe that Sadiq is a prime minister candidate, but I also believe that there are many more in Pakatan Harapan who are also actually prime minister candidate. But right now, since we are pushing through Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim as a prime minister candidate, the rest of them will make a splendid team in the government as the cabinet ministers as well.
Okay. Here's my question. This is my point of view, and I also asked Isham Jalil yesterday. Is it possible that you're talking about a splendid team? And I totally agree with you. My opinion, there are splendid people actually in all the parties, right? But currently it is our norm that you only pick the cabinet from the party or the coalition that you are part of. Can Malaysia come to a point one day where you can say, yeah, Minister of Finance, Minister of Education from my party. Oh, but we have an amazing, Minister of Science that is from this opposition party, or a Minister of Sports from even another opposition party, and let's all work together. Could Malaysia achieve? Is it even possible anywhere?
Well, the idea of what we call a united government is not entirely a new idea. Right? A lot of people have been talking about it. But I also always believe that the party and the candidate is sort of like a one entity at the end of the day. You cannot really separate a person from the party. You're right. There are a lot of good people in many other parties. But when you form a government, it's about trying to push through policies and agenda and good policies for the people. And so when you have people from different parties, will they be able to agree with the same policies that you want to push through? Let's say, for example, the issue of the citizenship of the mother who married someone who is not a citizen of Malaysia and then gave birth outside of Malaysia. So this time around, you see that every party suddenly, they want to ensure that these mothers get to confer citizenship to their children. But before this, it wasn't the case. So let's say if we form a unity government and then you have a prime minister who wants to allow these mothers to confer citizenship to the children, but suddenly you have Menteri Kementerian Dalam Negeri who their party do not agree with that kind of principle or that kind of policy, then you will have a lot of clashes of ideas in your cabinet, and it makes pushing through policies a lot harder. So the question of whether or not it is possible to have that, of course it is possible to have that, but then will it defeat the purpose of reform? And if it defeats the purpose of reform, then it is better for us to stick with the coalition that shares the same principles so that the cabinet can function in a stable way.
Well, what if someone from the opposing party intrinsically shares that value that you have of reform, but happens to be with a different party? Can you accept that?
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it begs the question, if they share that value, why are they with a party that do not share that value? So I think these are the things that, a chicken and egg issue at the end of the day, because when you are a minister, do you still have to follow through your party line? Do you still have to ensure that whatever the president of your party say is the word of law, even when you become a minister? So these are the things that, as to this day, it's still the same. For example, let's say, even calling for a general election, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri was very adamant that he doesn't want to call for election in monsoon season. He doesn't want to call for election in monsoon season, right? That's what he has always said. But at the end of the day, when he was pressured by his president of the party, Datuk Sri Zaid Hamidi, he doesn't have much choice but to go with it. Because at the end of the day, later on, when he wants to contest as a parliament, as a candidate, his watika pelantikan will come from the president of his party. Without that watika pelantikan, he cannot become a candidate. So you see a lot of detractors in Barisan Nasional were cut. They were cut off from contesting in this general election. You see people like, Tajuddin, people like No Omar, even KJ initially wasn't getting any place. He admitted it himself. He had to apply for Sungai Buloh because he wasn't given any other seat. And these are all because you are defectors of your party. And so when you defect from your party, there's that strong sense of anxiousness of whether or not you'll be able to contest in the next election. So it's very difficult for you to divide or to differentiate between a party and a candidate. And that is why when people ask, do you choose a candidate or do you choose a party? These are the two things that is very difficult for you to actually pisahkan from one another.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, you are in a fairly young party, therefore, I guess there's not much baggage as compared to other parties. But potentially, one day you might come to that crossroad where, after many, many years, you may have a disagreement in terms of where your party is going. And I hope that doesn't happen. But like what you said, it sounds like you are leaning towards the party line, But what if you, as an individual, do you think you could ever toe the party line when you intrinsically feel, no, this is not my line?
Yeah. I think number one is to when you enter politics, you must know where is your red line, right? There are a lot of compromises that have to be made, but you have to know what is the your red line. So, for example, for me, my red line is if it's about racism, sexism, and if if I am forced to make decisions that are against my principles and my values, then I'm okay to step aside, because I always say this, that at the end of the day, politics shouldn't be just a career to you. Politics should be a tool for you to push through reform, for you to fight for what you're passionate about. And political party is that, that transport, the kenderaan to push those reforms for you. But if the transport, the party malfunctioned, then you shouldn't malfunction along with it. You should take the brave step to get out of that transport, because at the end of the day, the end goal is to not just be a politician, but the end goal is to fight for reforms.
Well, I almost feel that there should be some kind of Star Trek music coming up right at the end of what you said there. Dun, 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 dun. Wow. You know what? We're going to end off on a lighter note. You're big on TikTok. You love TikTok. Is this okay? Is this Amira going? Oh, TikTok is big with the youngsters. I better get on TikTok. Oh, hello. I think we've lost. Oh, okay. Oh, we're almost there. I think we've lost Amira. Anyway, I don't know whether you
Sorry.
can still.
Okay, sorry, I'm here. I'm here.
You're still there?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm just bringing up your TikTok. I just wanted to ask you, which came first? Was it Amira and TikTok first, or was it the politician? Oh, I better get on TikTok.
Well, I'll be very honest. I was on TikTok way before I entered politics, but only to scroll through
Ooh.
things. But I wasn't. I
If
only
if
to
I
scroll
scroll up,
through videos.
if
Oh
I
yeah,
if I
I mean,
scroll,
but then
will I find you dancing somewhere?
no, but then I started creating videos when I am more into politics lah. But before that, I was just an FYP, a vid scroller.
A
So
big
no,
scroller.
you won't find videos of me dancing.
Doing none of that. You're not going to be.
No,
The most you're going to do is
fortunately,
this, right?
you won't find that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm just
Quite.
looking at. Yeah, I'm pretty good at that. I've got a young daughter. We do that together. So I'm just looking through your highest viewed one is this one with
One of my
Harun. Is
early
it?
videos. Yeah,
This is early, was it?
that was one of my early videos. I think was like,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I
that's
just
you're very good at that. You can do that. You do that very well. You do that very well.
yeah.
I can see. Next, just bring in a bit more of this. Okay, Amira. Uh, you know what? I think I could talk to you for the rest of the night, but I think I need to allow you to get a little bit of sleep before you head off to Penang. Before we go, would you like to say anything to last words to anybody who's listening or watching out there?
Yeah. Well, 19th November is going to be a very, very important date for all of us Malaysians, regardless of our race, regardless of our gender, regardless of the background of our family. Because 19th November, we're not just going to choose who are our elected representatives, but we are going to choose the government that will decide our education system. We're going to choose the government that will decide what kind of investments come into Malaysia. We are going to decide the government that will, decide the future of our children, the future of our grandchildren, and the future of Malaysia. So I know a lot of you might feel disenfranchised, but if you ever feel that, I do not care about whatever happens anymore, I always say this: think about your children, think about grandchildren, think about what kind of Malaysia you want to leave behind for them to inherit. And if you feel that you want them to inherit a government or a country that you can be proud of, then on the 19th of November, go out and do your duty as a Malaysian and vote for the people who you believe can fight for your rights.
And on that note, I want to say terima kasih banyak-banyak. Thank you so much for spending the last almost hour with us. Your energy is inspiring. I think, judging by the comment, a lot of people are enamored by you, and they have, someone just said, their faith in the future of Malaysia has been restored. Thank you, Amira. I wish you all the best. Please be safe on the road. And yeah, on the 19th, we're going to be heading out, hopefully, all of us, and hopefully not wading through some flood as we get to our polling station. So sekali lagi, terima kasih, Amira, and safe journey. And we'll see you just after the 19th, hopefully. Terima kasih.
Thank you for having me
Thanks.
here.
Bye. Oh, there you go, Amira Aisya, co-founder of MUDA. Guys, you know what? Number one, this is my takeaway from all of this. Number one, it is obvious that Amira she's passionate. She has the drive and she has the energy, and you can tell from her tone and her voice that she really believes in what she's saying and what she's doing, and I think that's really, really refreshing. Number two, yeah, what I liked about that conversation was that she, there was more positivity than negativity, and frankly speaking, I got that from Isham Jalil last night as well, and I think that's a very positive way to deal with things and to come off. Especially for a politician nowadays, because sometimes I do get a bit tired. Do you guys get a bit tired of a shit talking about how bad this person did or what bad that person did? That's how I feel. Thank you everyone for watching. Abel Christian says looking forward to a brighter, happy, healthy Malaysia, and vote properly. Yeah, vote properly. Don't simply panka across the line and stuff like that. To everybody who's on Twitter Space, anybody wants to come request on Twitter Space, just request right now, and then we'll bring you on Twitter Space. We've got a few minutes. I can talk. On YouTube as well. If you've been watching, thank you so much. Amira is good. Yes, she is. Inju Eng, Yo Eng Kian also says excellent chat. Victor Lim says great. I loved it. Thank you so much, guys. You know what? It's been an interesting evening. We are really on the brink in the next 4 days. Regardless of who you support, who you choose, I do hope that we don't spiral into name calling and basically expletives and stuff like that. So, guys, once again, if you've been watching, you know me. My stand has always been for a better Malaysia. Yesterday I had someone from UMNO. Today I've got somebody from MUDA. I like to talk to people. I like to find out what people are doing, and I like to find out the feeling on the street. And I like to find out from you. So I'm going to go back and read some of the comments and hopefully answer some of the comments. If you have been watching, please, if I may ask a request, share this live. This is not going to be live anymore. Just share it on your Facebook. If you're on YouTube, make a copy paste the link and share it on WhatsApp and say, hey, check out. And I hope that you followed. Are you following? Follow me. Is that what's the? I will follow you wherever you may go. Na, 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 na. Yeah. You can tell I'm winding down, right? I don't have the energy of Amira. But guys, yes, last comment. Let me bring that up here. MUDA will be the future generations with PH, a perfect start. That will be Malaysia once changes. Your vote is very important, so please do come and vote. Thank you, Ansem De Costa. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, everyone on Twitter Space. Aziz, Ben, Aish, Dave. Some of you have been with us listening from the... Oh, hold on. My mic was off. My mic was off on Twitter Space. That's why when orang tua ni tak tahu macam nak pakai tak tahu nak pakai phone. My mic was off. Twitter Space. I'm here. Does anybody want to say anything from Twitter Space? Please request right now, or I'm going to log out of this program. Interviewing any past candidates. Mas Elon. I'm not even joking about your name. Mas Elon. I get it. I see what you did there. Mas Elon Musk. Did you guys catch that? Well, Mas Elon, yeah, past candidates. To be honest, no, I haven't interviewed any. Anybody from past watching? Hit me up. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Okay, guys. Mas Elon, I like that name. Jimmy Lin says you look fabulous with a beard. I don't think I've never not had a beard. I was born having a beard, even when I was a baby. Came out, had a beard. But thank you for your comment. Okay. All right, guys. Gotta go. It's almost 11 o'clock. Yeah. I've had a good time with Amira, Aisya. If you've enjoyed the program, let me know in the comments. And I will be trying to answer some, if not all, of your comments at a later point in time. So until then, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. And I don't think we've answered the question to what's going on in Malaysia, but I think we're a little step closer to finding out what makes a better Malaysia. I'll see everyone real soon. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Good night, everyone.